Today, I'm going to show you how to make the best ever blueberry muffins. Hi, I'm Patty and welcome to my handmade lifestyle. I go by Patty Mac Makes everywhere online. On this YouTube channel, you can expect to find lots of makes, bakes, and gardening. Around here, we're all about living that analog life in this crazy digital world. So if that's appealing to you, click subscribe and hang out with us. Okay, for today's video, we're going to make the best ever blueberry muffins. And I think blueberry muffins should be in everybody's baking rotation. So there are some things in life that if you want to be a baker, you should know how to make, and I think muffins are one of those items. They're really easy to do, they taste really good, almost everybody likes them, and they're great with breakfast, they're great with lunch, they're a good snack. I mean, really, you can't go wrong with a good blueberry muffin. This original recipe is from King Arthur flour, and they call it what do they call it? Okay, they call it donut muffins. And I really don't think they taste like donuts. I'm from the South, and for us, donuts are Krispy Kreme. It's just the way it is. All donuts are judged by the standard of Krispy Kreme when you live in the South, and let me tell you, it's a high bar. We don't do cake donuts here. So these didn't really taste like donuts to me, but they did taste like a really great muffin. And one way that King Arthur was promoting this recipe was to say that it's really good just by itself, because I guess kids can be picky eaters and they don't like things in their food. So if your child is funny about things in their food, you can make this recipe and not add any fruit. But they are wonderful. You can add fruit, you can add chocolate chips, you could add nuts, you could add whatever you like. So this is such a great basic muffin to make all of these different things. So, okay, that's enough talk. Let's get into making these. I'm going to show you the ingredients, and then we're going to mix them right up and bake them up, and I'll show you how to finish them. Here are the ingredients all measured out and ready to go for the blueberry muffins that we're going to make. And you can see that what I've done is to measure out over here the butter, the 2 sugars, and the oil, and that's the mixing bowl. So I measured right into the mixing bowl, and that can go right on to our mixer. We have our 2 eggs over here. This is our milk. These are the dry ingredients all measured out over here, and there is the vanilla. Over here you can see I've got the blueberries. Everything is room temperature and ready to go. So those are the ingredients, and the measurements that you'll need are down in the description box below. So have a look there. And I will also link over to the original recipe on the King Arthur website. So you can go take a look over there if you like. I highly recommend that website. They are awesome. So let me show you a couple of special tools and equipment that you're going to need to make the muffins. Over here, I have my oven, and it's preheated to 425, so it is a hot oven. And you can see that I have my muffin pans all ready to go. And even though it says it makes 12, I find it makes a little bit more than 12. So I'm ready to go with 15. I just find that's the way it works. I also want you to notice that I have both a square and a round muffin tin. And look at how nicely the liners sit down in that muffin pan as opposed to the round. They're all up in the air over here, and they're crazy, and they're hard to work with. With this, it's a lot easier to get your batter into the cup. So I highly recommend going with the square muffin tin. Also, you can see I have a cookie scoop, and this is the big cookie scoop, and I use this to portion out my muffin mix. It's just an easier way I find to do it. This I want to show you. These I've just started using, and holy mackerel, I love these things. So it's always a struggle with the wrappers with sticking. And I have used baking spray and find that really helps. But if you go with these parchment liners, nothing sticks. They are a godsend. Now, I will also tell you, they're not decorative. They're just plain, okay? And they're so nonstick that they pretty much fall off of your baked good as soon as you pull it out. So if you have a special cupcake and you really want the wrapper to be part of that presentation, this may not be for you. But for muffins and everyday cupcakes at home, they are perfect. If you're going to go with the decorative wrappers, then I would do the spray, because what I find is if I use the baking spray, the wrappers will stay adhered to the baked good, but they'll remove with ease. So that's a tip. But yeah, the parchment, and I'm sure I found it in my grocery store. I'm sure it's on Amazon. Everything is. So, okay, these I love. Okay, so what are we going to do to make these muffins? The first thing we're going to do as we mix this recipe is in the mixing bowl, we're going to cream together the butter, the oil, and the sugar, both sugars. Just cream that until it's smooth. You want your sugars to be somewhat dissolved. So that's a couple of minutes, and I'm doing mine on my beautiful KitchenAid mixer because I love it so much, and I'm using the paddle attachment. You would want to use the paddle attachment. Once all of that is well combined, the next thing we're going to do is add eggs one at a time and mix them in until they're combined. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add our dry ingredients and the dairy. And what you do is you put a third of the flour in, and then we're going to let that incorporate. And then we're going to put in half of the dairy and let that incorporate. And then we do another third of our dry mixture, which is the flour, let that incorporate. Then we're going to do the rest of the liquid, the rest of the milk. We'll add our vanilla at that point. Let that incorporate. And then we do the rest of the flour. It's very important in this stage that you alternate the flour with the dairy, and that you begin and end with the flour. This is very important. And the reason we're doing this is it has something to do with the molecules from the dairy coating the proteins in the flour, something like that. Don't quote me. I read it somewhere. I read it in, I think, the Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat book. I read that this year, which is an excellent book. She talked about it. But so there is a method to the madness. We're not asking you to do stuff just because we're trying to think of ways to really trip you up. That's not what's happening. There is a reason. So make sure you do that. And you will see this come up in a lot of recipes. So you do that. When it's time to add the blueberries, you don't dump them in and use the paddle attachment. First of all, you'll tear up the berries, and we don't want to do that. We want them to be whole. Also, you don't want to put plain blueberries into the mix because they will sink like a stone to the bottom of your muffin. What we're going to do is we're going to stir a little bit of flour into the berries, just enough to coat them, and then we're going to gently fold in those coated blueberries, or whatever berry you choose to use. That's up to you, but we're doing blueberries here today. You fold in the coated blueberries, and then they will not all sink to the bottom, because you want your fruit to be evenly distributed throughout the muffin. So that's the goal with that. Then we're just going to, in even dollops, dip from the bowl with the ice cream scoop and try to be as even as possible in our muffin cups. And when they're all full, we'll put them into the oven and we will bake 15 to 17 minutes at 425. And we're looking for a pale golden brown, and we'll test and make sure that the knife comes out clean. You don't want to over bake them. If you over bake, you're going to have a dry muffin, and nobody wants a dry muffin. So while those are baking, we're going to melt some butter, and then we're going to make up some cinnamon sugar, which is nothing more than 3 tablespoons of sugar, granulated sugar, and some cinnamon mixed in. And we're just going to stir the cinnamon and the sugar. And what we'll do is, when the muffins are finished baking, we're going to use a pastry brush and brush the butter onto the top of the muffin and sprinkle with that cinnamon sugar. And I will give you a tip: if you really want the sugar to show up and have something that is like what you see in magazines and on those beautiful food blogs, you'll want to use something like this Wilton, which is a cake product, but it's basically white sparkling sugar, and you'll want to use a product like this and sprinkle this over top of that cinnamon sugar. And what it will do is it will stay on top of the baked good, and it's a bigger grain. It's just prettier. So if you really want something that looks picture perfect, you'll use that. And that's how you make these wonderful muffins. See, not so bad. Let's try one and see how they are. So like I was telling you, I mean, that muffin wrapper just falls right off. These are still warm from the oven. Let me see here if I can show you what's going on. Oh my goodness, look at that. There is nothing like a fresh baked homemade muffin. They're not overly sweet, but the crunch from the sugar on top is just enough. Here's the inside. So see how my berries are dispersed throughout? That's what you want. That's how you make blueberry muffins at home. And if you'll excuse me, I'm going to enjoy this one, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.